Hey everybody, welcome to Indie Games Level Up. I'm your host Phil Lubensky. For this week's episode, we're in the Saint-Roch neighborhood of Quebec City, where many video game studios are located. I'm going to talk with Parabole about their upcoming mystery survival game, Kôna. Kôna is a first-person survival adventure game. It takes place in the 1970s in northern Quebec. Use your wits to survive, explore, and investigate the mystery surrounding the disappearance of a mining magnate. It's realistic, immersive, and rich in atmosphere. That's it, on to the interview. What sparked the idea for Kôna?
At first it was a snowmobile. We developed that kind of a game jam. We asked the artist, hey, could we have a vintage snowmobile? That would be cool. And then we just took jump in snowfield, and then we thought maybe there's something there that we could develop a game where the protagonist is just hanging out with his snowmobile. But then we wanted a story. Kôna is an interactive tale that takes place in the 1970s northern Quebec in Canada, in which you incarnate Carl Faubert, a private detective who must investigate the disappearance of several inhabitants in the north. So we worked a lot on making sure that the snow was realistic and that the whole thing felt a bit oppressive on yourself. Like if you feel trapped in the north, even if it's open, you have all the snow on the screen and you feel trapped in an open environment. I want to play games that are made by a bunch of people and you feel the personality of the creators in the work. There's a lot of challenges involved in that, and that really drives us. It's really something that we wanted to push, like having a French voice actor, having French text written by a French literature expert. Once we started laying out the story, it made a lot of sense and it really did something special. So that's why we're making Kôna in northern Quebec. It's for those people around the world who do not live here. So when we travel, let's say the PAX East in Boston and people play the game, they are like, whoa, that's great. You're on a snowmobile and then you're in northern Quebec. That's really amazing. And we will really like to see games made in Swedish or in any kind of language around the world and featuring locations that we'd never visited.
I want to know what makes a good detective game from your point of view.
To my point of view is not putting a lot of things too obvious for the player. You always have this kind of particular vague goal. You don't know if it will end up doing something for the story, but you know that if you go there, you might have some answers. So what's difficult is mostly making sure that it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Kôna is the mix of mechanics. It's what we call a multi-genre. We jump from being a first-person shooter to an adventure game. You could play the game without shooting, at wolves. There are wolves in the game. If you want to shoot the wolf, you can shoot the wolf. But you can also feed it with food you find in the fridge. You can also shoot in the air to just scare him away. You can drive the vehicle near him. That's enough to make him flee. So it's a balance of things. It's making sure that everything makes sense, where we don't force the player to do things he don't want to.
Parabole is a bit of a different kind of video game company. You guys make also commissioned interactive experiences for industry and advertising agencies.
Yes, at first it was, let's say, a business decision to open our studio to outsiders, to contract work. And then we found out that a lot of companies, especially in advertising business, were looking for this kind of expertise. And then it turned out into something really interesting where we apply the same kind of mentality, the same kind of ideology of game development, but to promote something. At the beginning, we thought we were the best thing in the world. We had the biggest ego in the world. But you figure out that a lot of people are good at what they do, and then you want to work with them and not against or apart from them. It opened our mind to business relations. We're not close to publishers, we're not close to dealing with other companies. We do that a lot, in fact, but in Quebec there are maybe 5 or 6 studios that are really close together. So we gather here once a month, talk about our about our challenge, about the opportunities, and we even share our funding, like documents and all those kind of things. We all do games, and we are not in competition. We are working together in some way. That's really what drives me. It's being able to create this kind of huge thing all by ourselves. Like we're creating a new world and making it live, and that's basically something I will not trade. Like it's really something that I find great. And if at one point in time I stop doing that, I will be kind of sad to let that part away, because that's the part that is awesome.
Alex, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
So for more info on the game, guys, go to www.konagame.com. Indie Games Level Up is produced by Handmade. Handmade creates compelling live action and animation, including video game trailers, commercials, and this web series. To find out more, visit handmadecreative.ca. This episode is sponsored by the Canada Media Fund. Since 2010, they've invested over $50 million in Canadian indie game studios. The Canada Media Fund is proud to help indie games level up, explore innovation and creativity in indie games.